celebrating 20 years of possibility.
Hey, I'm Denetria Moore, and I believe that anything is possible.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. I'm Halloran Hilton Hill. These are great stories about great people whose lives prove possibility, or that anything is possible. And today my guest is Denetria Moore. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
The girls call you Miss Dee Dee.
Yes.
So I want to start with what you do and work our way back to who you are.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
I started seeing these social media posts a few years ago, and it said Girl Talk. And I didn't know what it was. I started to kind of look into it. And then I started hearing rumblings in the community. You have a lot of fans that you may not even know about. And people were saying, do you know about the work that this incredible woman is doing, the way she is transforming lives with Girl Talk? And I started to do my surveillance. I started to do my work to figure out what's going on, and I am blown away. What is Girl Talk?
Yeah, absolutely. So Girl Talk is a nonprofit, and we work with teen girls. Our mission is to empower girls to become their best selves by reducing the likelihood of teen pregnancy and helping them to advance educationally. And so we do that through three main programs, and we focus on, at the elementary age, building that confidence, self-esteem, laying the foundation. And then middle schoolers, we partner them with one-on-one mentors that will help walk through those transitions of life with them. And then our Life Prep Academy is for our high school girls, and we're preparing them for those next phases of life after high school. And so we walk them through their interests, their callings, like what they think their purpose is in life, so that when they get to either college or a career path, that they feel more confident, that they know, the direction that they want to go in life. So we help them to create action plans to help them get to that next phase. We prepare them. When you think about what life had to teach you growing up, we try to be intentional about teaching the next generation. So we talk a lot about finances and credit and what that means, and just, how to buy a car, how to apply for housing, all the things that, we just kind of had to figure out on our own. So we're trying to be intentional about that next generation and preventing them from a lot of things that we had to go through growing up.
So tell me a story. Tell me, and you don't have to give a name, but tell me the story of a girl in whom you saw that transformation. She was here, you and your team were able to pour into her, and she's here.
So the first girl that I think of, she grew up in a single parent household, which all of our girls don't necessarily grow up in single parent households, but this girl in particular grew up in a single parent household, and she had younger siblings. And so essentially, she had to be the adult helping to raise the kids because her mom had to work to provide for them. And so she at first felt like she couldn't do a lot of things. So she felt like, well, you guys are going on college tours and you're going on, career tours and all the things, but I have to make sure that, she called them my kids, are taken care of. But as we paired her with a mentor, and that mentor just kind of walked alongside her and gave her some individual attention. She may not have been able to do a lot of the group things, but before, she wasn't thinking about college or career or whatever that meant, but she always said, well, I can't go to college because I have to take care of my kids. But as she began to come into her own, and to see that actually was possible for her, that it was attainable for her too. She may not have been able to go to Pennsylvania or Boston or somewhere far away, but that was obtainable for her too. She started to think about college, and she started to think about what it is that she wanted to do. And so now she's enrolled in Crown College, and she's working to become a nurse. And so she realized, she took that nurturing spirit and put it into something that she's passionate about, which is helping people. And now she's on the road to becoming a nurse. So.
Look at the smile on your face, right? That smile probably encapsulates purpose, right?
Absolutely.
Because as you started telling the story, there was a glow on your face to begin with, and it's not just the lighting, there's something else going on. But then when you said, and now she's on the path to becoming a nurse, and your face just lights up at the thought of that transition.
Yeah.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up.
Back then, I had no idea what God was gonna do with Girl Talk. I just knew I needed to start.
That's beautiful that you guys have a very systematic approach to helping young women find a pathway to possibility. Mm-hmm. That tells me what you do, but now I want to move to why you do it.
Absolutely.
Because in every great story, the main character will have a motivating or driving force. Every story ever told. You'll find out that as a little kid, the villain was bullied and he decided that he was gonna, or you'll find that the little kid had something happen and he determined that he was going to change the world because of what happened to him. But there's always some underlying driving force. What's your driving force for why you do what you do? What's your story?
Yeah. So growing up, I struggled a lot with low self-esteem. I struggled with seeing my worth, my value, and I made a lot of poor choices. You know, I grew up in the church, but especially in the Black church, we didn't talk about mental health. We didn't talk about, you know, self-esteem and all the things. And so I struggled with that, but at the time I didn't understand what that was. I just knew I needed validation and affirmation, and so for me, I sought that.
What do you think crushed or impeded your self-esteem? Have you sourced what that was?
Yes, for me, I didn't fit in with any group of people. I didn't fit in with my family. I didn't fit in. I was teased a lot growing up.
What kind of teasing? What would people say?
Yeah, for me, it would be, oh, she has a moon chin, or, you know, I had a really bad case of chicken pox, and so my legs I had sores, and they would call me, you know, polka dot Dee Dee, and just things that, you know, as a 5-6-year-old, you didn't understand that, you know, and everybody else thought it was funny, but for me, it just made me feel like I didn't fit in and like I stuck out even more. And so those insecurities, if they're not dealt with, they grow up with you. They just become bigger. And so for me, those insecurities just become bigger as I grew up, and as I became bigger, they became bigger.
It's amazing to me how the way people treat us, especially in formative years, can snuff out possibility. Mm-hmm. And so you don't live, you survive.
Yep.
Thriving is not even an option. It's just day to day.
Yep.
But self-hatred may be the worst kind of hatred.
Absolutely.
Because you can't escape it.
Yep.
It's always with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's in bed with you, it's in the shower with you, it's in the car with you. It is that nagging inner voice that says you're never enough or you're too much.
Right. Yep.
So what happened? You said you made some choices.
Yeah, I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter my freshman year of college at UT. I struggled, you know, and became a teen mom. And my mom, the grace she showed me, she was like, do you want to send her home? You know, do you want to send the baby home after you have the baby? What do you want to do? And I'm like, no, it's my responsibility. So I have to figure it out. So, you know, I had to find a job. Like, I have this little kid now, this other mouth to feed. So I went to school full time. I got a full-time job and full-time mom now. And being a single parent, as I was going throughout college and trying to figure out, okay, what is it that I want to do with my life, you know? And in college is where I met Jesus for real. And I say for real because growing up, it was the Jesus that other people talked about. It was the Jesus that, you know, my mom taught me about or my pastor taught me about, but I didn't have a real relationship. So I met him for real, and that's when I started to figure out who I was. And as I figured out who I was, I figured out what my calling was and what my purpose was. And that was to replicate what God had done in my life and the lives of others. And then I, you know, saw that other girls were struggling like I was struggling, and I wanted to pour back into them in a way where I could be empathetic and relate, because I had been down that path myself, and I wanted to prevent them from having to make some of the same mistakes that I made.
You know, that's really significant, and I think it's even more significant in the society we live in now, because this corrosive culture of comparison, Instagram, TikTok, all of these other platforms where people are being driven by likes. Because all of us want to be loved, but I think more than that, we want to be liked. We want the thumbs up. And you look at these girls in the best light, in the best filter, projecting their best or curated version of their lives, and that comparison can be so corrosive. So in your apartment, you decide to step out on faith and start this movement called Girl Talk. What was in your mind at that point where, because I love people who don't wait for the perfect circumstance. I love people who create it. I love people who use exactly what's in their hand. I got an apartment, I got enough space for X number of people. We're just going to start. Tell me about that.
For me, I knew if I didn't start it, I would never start it, because it's a scary thing to think about. And back then I had no idea what God was gonna do with Girl Talk. I just knew I needed to start. And so I started with 6 girls in my little bitty apartment, and we just kind of, you know, had sleepovers. That was the start of it. And the things that they would share, just giving them a safe space to just be with each other and to be with a caring adult, it just blew my mind. And, you know, before I knew it, I had 16 girls in my little bitty apartment, and I knew then, okay, I need help from the community. And so I literally Googled how to start a nonprofit, and that's just kind of how we took off from there.
Do you know how many people just need a safe space to be heard? Like, I think one of the modern day luxuries is somebody giving you their undivided attention. Not even a solution, not even a here's what you should do, not even a 3-step plan to take you from what you just said to what I envision for you. I'm talking about just the space and time for somebody to stop and say, you matter enough to me for me to hear what it is that's on your heart. You matter enough for me, not only for me to hear it, but you don't get canceled because of it. Who did that for you?
For me, it was my pastor, Pastor Daryl Arnold.
Amazing.
Yes, he did that for me. I remember when I found out I was pregnant, and I went in his office and I shared it with him, and you know, I was so afraid of judgment and condemnation, but again, the love and the grace that he showed me in that space, it forever changed me. And just being able to have a safe space to just be and share, even in the church, at Overcoming Believers Church, period, just having a safe space to be who I was and not have to fake it. It just opened the door for me to learn myself even more and to learn who God was for real. And so that, and my mom, she did that for me, just call her and there were so many times I wanted to give up with school and she would just listen. And then I would go on a rant and just, all the reasons why I wanted to give up. And then at the end, she was just like, yeah, but that's not really what you want to do. You're saying that now, and I'm going to give you the space to say everything that you feel. But at the end of the day, you're not going to give up, and just the love in her voice, I don't know, it made me feel seen and heard and loved.
Yes. I think what you just triggered for me was you said the love in her voice. Like I said, you're triggering a lot of things in me in this conversation. I'm thinking about sometimes the quality with which someone listens to you, but their tone of voice when they respond. Something above the words themselves. Mm-hmm. There's a texture that the words have when they're coated in love.
Yeah.
You could even hear tough truth, but when it has that coating of love, I think it gummifies the tough love, right? It turns it into a gummy bear, and you can swallow it because you can taste, you can feel, you can experience that love. And I guess that's exactly what you're trying to do as you walk in your purpose with these girls.
Yeah.
And that moment when it happens. Mm-hmm. You know that moment where you go from Denetria Moore, the CEO and executive director of Girl Talk, to Miss Dee Dee.
Yeah.
And when they run to you.
Yeah.
And so when you think about possibility, when you look at the possibility of your life, and I love your husband. He's one of my favorite people. He's a great musician, but he's got a great spirit, and you guys lead a ministry together. When you think about the recipe for possibility, right? Somebody's watching right now, and they're watching this interview, and if you were to say to them, this is what I've learned about possibility, and this is what I've learned about the recipe for possibility in people who don't see it right now. Because I know some people who are 60 and don't see it, right? Mm-hmm. They still are in need of those vitamins. What's the recipe?
I have this necklace on that has mustard seeds in it, and it talks about faith. And for me, that is the recipe for anything being possible, because without it, you have nothing. For me, it's the foundation it's the why I keep going. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And when you think about your dreams and your desires, sometimes they can feel like mountains. And, me as this Black girl, Black woman, double minority, trying to start a nonprofit, essentially run a business, for a lot of us, it would feel very impossible. But just stepping out there and allowing God to guide me and lead me every step of the way is what keeps me going, and it's what I lean on when I'm afraid and when I'm scared and when I'm discouraged. Supportive people. You mentioned my husband. I could not do what I do without him. There were many, many, many years where I didn't earn a paycheck at all, and he held our family down. And so having supportive people, even if it's just one person, it helps. And just having a vision and trusting yourself and trusting God that it's gonna be what it needs to be. I'm looking off. I'm going generations deep with your work. You won't realize the impact. There will be some girl that grows into an amazing woman that dedicates her life to helping people. And you can run 3 generations down, and there might be 10,000, 100,000 people
who from that mustard seed of faith have been fertilized to do great good in the world. And I just commend and admire you for stepping into that space and walking in your calling. And I learned something today from you. I'm gonna write it on one of these note cards as soon as we finish. Love creates possibility, right? Mm-hmm. You got pregnant as a teenager, you finished college, you've been through a lot of leadership training, you finished your master's degree, right? You're running a successful nonprofit. But if you are not impacted by somebody's radical, unconditional love, to love you where you were, as you were, with a vision toward what you could or would be, the love is what created a possibility. Yeah. And I'm thankful that you're here today and that you are engaged in work that leverages love to create possibility for young women. How can people connect with what you do?
Yeah, so all of our information is on our website, which is girltalkinc.com. My email address is on there, our phone number is on there, our address is on there. So if anybody wants to connect with us, they just www.girltalkinc.com.
Well, I'll tag it with this. Miss Dee Dee, you go, girl. Thank you for being on Anything Is Possible.
Thank you so much for having me.